Walter Carter here at Carter Vintage Guitars today with an interesting signature model from Gibson, a double signature model. This is a Gibson Byrdland that was named for two guys, Billy Byrd and Hank Garland, two Nashville pickers. It was designed to be a jazz guitar, which most people would find surprising, but Nashville was a kind of hotbed of jazz back then. Billy Byrd was born in 1920, grew up in Nashville. Hank Garland was born 10 years later in 1930 and came to Nashville as a 16-year-old around 1946. Garland got on the map with his version of Sugarfoot Rag, which was just one of the first hot-picking electric guitar hits. Billy Byrd eventually joined Ernest Tubbs' band, where he played pretty simple country licks, except when the band took off occasionally. And in those days, country artists, their bands were usually good enough to record on their own, and many of the bands did that. These guys would play sessions by day, but at night they'd go down to the Printer's Alley area of town where there were clubs, and they would play jazz. In the early 50s, Gibson approached these guys about doing a signature model. So this is what they came up with. From the front, it looks like Gibson's L5, 17-inch arch top. This has two humbuckers because it's from the 70s. Originally, it would have had two P90 pickups. First thing they did was make the body thinner, a little over 2 inches as opposed to a little over 3 inches on a standard arch top. But the main thing they did was make the scale shorter. The standard L5 would be 25.5. This is 23.5 inches. The style of jazz required greater and greater reaches, and they could do more with the shorter scale. The model lasted quite a lot longer than those guys did. Hank Garland was in a car wreck in 1961. It didn't kill him, but it really diminished his ability to play. I saw him play some years later in the early 80s and met him backstage, got to talk to him, and it was clear that he had had some brain damage. He was a perfectly nice fellow, but was a shell as a player of what he had been able to do in the 50s. Billy Byrd just had a hard time handling life on the road and quit country music. Billy wanted nothing to do with the music business and bought a cab and became a cab driver for the rest of his working life. Vince Gill has a great story about getting off the airplane and his first trip to Nashville and discovering that Billy Byrd was his cab driver. And Byrd was pretty excited to know that somebody out there still knew who he was. I believe Billy died in 2001 and Hank in 2004. But the guitar remained in the Gibson line all through the years. It went through the same changes as the L5. In the 60s, it went to a pointed cutaway, then back to rounded cutaway. From the P90s to humbuckers. Basically, it's been a thin body L5 all through these years. So it remained in the Gibson line available until 2008. People still find it difficult to adjust to this short scale and the slightly narrower fingerboard. It's a mental thing to get used to it, and it's easier if you don't play another guitar. I would say this guitar is built for comfort and speed, and as you get older, you'll come to appreciate those things. So if you're a young guy, start out on one of these and you'll never feel old.